Hey, welcome back to God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I am your host, Robert Moore III. I'm excited that you would join us today for another great episode. And if you're new to this community, I want you to know that you matter here and your story matters no matter what chapter you're in. So today, I want you to sit back with a community that cares about you and hopes that you feel God's love as well as see God's glory in men's real stories. So my special guest today is a brother who I'm excited to get to know better. After speaking to him on the phone, I was excited to hear more of his story. He's the lead pastor of the Servant Church here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I want to welcome Selwyn Davis to the episode. How you doing?
I'm fine. I'm honored to be here. I thank you for having me.
Yeah, no. I'm always excited when a person accepts my invitation and says, yes, I would love to come and share a piece of me. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, there is so many levels of saying, okay, well, you can get to know me through the website or through my church, but there are intimate moments where I recognize that coming here and sharing a part of you with the other brothers and sisters that listen to this podcast, it creates a level of vulnerability and intimacy to where people get to know you outside of maybe who they get to meet or who they get to see on Sundays. Right. And normally it's nothing like truly being able to get to know a person outside of just their message. Right. So I'm going to let you start off by just telling my guests a little bit about yourself, who you are.
Well, my name's Selwyn Davis. I'm here in Charlotte. I'm pastor of Servant Church. That in itself has been a journey, and right. I'm sure we'll talk about some of those things. But I'm married to Cassandra. We've been happily married for 12 years, and we have wonderful children. We have two that are in the home, just Skylar and Izzy. We call him Izzy. His name's Israel.
Okay.
And then we have Chase, who's not in the home, and then of course we have two I call grown-ups, Brandy and Sierra, that are out. One in the Navy. Brandy's teaching in school, and
very cool.
But we're a unit,
Nice.
I've been in Charlotte since 1999.
Wow. Okay.
And even coming to Charlotte, it was a challenge for me because I was running from some things, but didn't realize I was actually running to the thing that God was calling me to. So it's certainly been a journey.
Wow.
But I'm an open book. And I'm a testament to not giving up, not through any will of my own, but just through building that relationship with Christ.
Right.
Honestly, that's, if I have anything to share, that's what I would share, and what I do share with everyone, just about God's goodness, His grace, and His mercy.
That's good. And, it's funny how you said, I love how you started off by saying, you ran from, that calling to come to Charlotte. And I feel like all of us have callings at times where we hear it and we'll like dissect it to say, yeah, but I mean, like he didn't say exactly where, or he said Charlotte, but there's so many Charlottes in different places. And I mean, we'll try to reason with God, and we know exactly what He's calling us to do. Yeah. But like but God, I mean, look at where I'm at in life right now, or look at what's going on. So I mean, I would love to like just start right there. What was it that brought you to Charlotte, and what was your journey leading up to that?
Well, what brought me to Charlotte is, and that's the crazy thing, I was running from a relationship, not realizing that I was running to a relationship. I was running from a relationship, probably one that I shouldn't have been involved in. And it just changed so many things for me consequently. And I tell gentlemen all the time, you get in some of these relationships and they become so controlling, they control your life. So as a result of this relationship, I lost a job, I lost family members and some other things. And it was actually toxic, and because of that toxicity, I decided to start something anew. And in doing that, I actually ran into the thing that God had for me to do all along.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. It's you're right, because I feel like when we fall short or when we make mistakes, our first notion is to run or to just kind of like, all right, well, this looks pretty damaged. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and excuse myself from this situation now. And it may, whether it be something that we've always witnessed, because I was talking to a brother recently that said, a lot of what we do, it's something that we've seen. Mm-hmm. It's something that's normal to us. So when it doesn't look like it's working here. Well, I've always witnessed that my parents or my father or my mother just kind of said, hey, look, wash my hands of that. We move on to the next situation. I move on to the next person. Yeah. And so it can become normal. It can become something that's just like, well, that's just how it is. Yeah. So when you said that you ran from what you were in to where God was leading you, can you share a little bit about your background story of how you even, became close to God, or how he used you in your life before, you even got here to Charlotte?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I tell people this all the time. The interesting part about my upbringing is that I grew up in a functional home. Had my mother and father there, brother and sister. And my mom went to what we call the Holiness Church.
Okay.
And my father went to the popular Baptist church in the area, St. Mark Baptist. I'll give him a shout out,
Okay.
But so I went to the Holiness Church. I just wanted to go to church where my mom went. And that's where I had my initial learning in terms of what the Bible means, what church means, what all of this means. So I grew up in what we would call a God-fearing home. My father was more of the politician, good man. Of course, he passed away when I was 12 years old. But my mom, the devout Christian, she's God has blessed us with having her even now at 87 years old. And even at 87 years old, she's never once told me to do something, or told me not to do something, and then contradict herself by either doing it or not doing it. She's a woman of her word. She's a woman of integrity, and she's my first teacher. So what I learned from her. So I grew up in this church, New Hope Church in Sumter, South Carolina, and that has been a pillar for me, for my walk, for my journey. And so many things happened during this time. I didn't understand it then. And of course, I understand it so much better now.
Right.
But as we were talking before, and even on the phone, I felt that growing up in this quote unquote holiness church, that there was more focus on the rules opposed to the relationship.
Right.
And focusing on the rules is what you can't do, what you shouldn't do, what you should say, what you shouldn't say, what you should wear, what you shouldn't wear. Not so much for the men, but just kind of growing up in this dogmatic thing. It was just a bunch of rules.
Right.
And that really didn't allow me as a child to understand what relationship meant. So church was it was more obligatory than anything else.
Right.
Because if you're in my mom's house, you're going to church.
Right. That's so many of us, though. I mean, it was like, regardless how late you stayed up last night, regardless of how what you may have done or what you had planned, we're starting this morning off in church. and that either went great for a lot of us, or it just kind of like it started to build this little callus on us where it was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I know I'm forced to do things, but this is just not comfortable. I don't feel welcome here, or whatever it may be. I mean, there's some people that are like, this was exactly where I wanted to be. I felt loved here, and that's awesome, because I feel like that's what it's all about. I feel welcomed here. I feel like I have grace here to still be human in a world where I'm going to be imperfect, and that's okay. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, please. And growing up in there, it's like anything else. There are things that you fall in love with. There are just things that you're used to, and there are other things you say, you know what? When I'm on my own, they'll never see me again. I'm done. And of course, after my father passed, I just went through, and honestly, some things I haven't realized until now. Some of the things that I went through as a teen. As a preteen, as a teen, as a young adult, that stemmed from my father's death. Because I didn't go to counseling, and even my uncles that were here, they didn't really talk to me about that void in my life and what that meant. So a lot of things I learned from the society, the culture that I was in. A lot of things I got wrong, a lot of mistakes I made, because I'm just kind of testing things out. And after the mistakes start to stack up, you just think you missed it.
Right.
It's over.
Yeah.
I'll just, at this point, I'll just take whatever I can get, right?
Right.
So, going into the Marine Corps, we were kind of laughing and talking about it because I really didn't understand the relationship. I thought that importance was in religion. So consequently, while I'm in boot camp, I changed religion 4 times.
Right.
I'm Catholic this day. I'm Protestant this day. Baptist this. I'm just everything. Whatever the label is, I'm wearing it. I'm getting some new dog tags and really trying to find my way. Here I am, have no idea of what Catholicism is, and I'm wearing rosary beads.
Now, I'm just curious. What was it that made you try out, or like were you looking for something in each one?
I think now that I self-reflect, I think I was. But then it was because I saw some other Marines, and of course on Sundays we would go to Mass or go to service on Paris Island, and I'd see these rosary beads with the cross. I'm like, oh man, those are cool. And so I'm Catholic this day, and then you go over here and you see something that you like. So I was just influenced by my environment, and really had no understanding. Here's the important thing: no understanding of relationship. Right. Because I'm looking at different religions. Right. Have no idea of what relationship is. Why? Because the church I grew up in, and the Bible says, the Bible talks about you teaching a child, and when he grows, he won't depart from it. I thank God for allowing me to grow up in the midst of these sainted mothers that lived what they preached. They did it. The old mothers, my mom, we had a wonderful church with wonderful people. But again, in the eyes of a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, all I see is your rules. I have no understanding of what the relationship is. So I'm literally sent out into the world with rules, but no understanding of relationship. Right. So I think that's where the initial search came from. Now I'm in the Marine Corps. I'm in what we call the fleet, and I'm seeing the world. And I'm seeing the world in all of its splendor, its greatness, its sadness, its ugliness, hints of racism. That I grew up in a southern town in South Carolina, and I never saw that level of racism growing up in the country that I saw when I was in the Marine Corps. Wow. And this is in the early 90s. So now I'm experiencing all of these things, and I see that even in the Marine Corps, we're supposed to be this one unit. We bleed green. But I see all of these different splinters. I see the disparity. And now as a young, I'm still a teenager, but now I'm looking for, more than anything, I'm looking for fellowship. Right. Back then we called it brotherhood. Yeah. Right? Because that's the one thing I didn't have. Right. And in this world, that's something you need. Right. And I realized that then, and there were some brothers, even in the Marine Corps, that were studying Islam, and we would go different places on base. Here I am in Okinawa, and I see these brothers that are, it's just something to behold, man. They're all together. If one has, the other has. There was just a brotherhood I saw, and I was like, how could you not want to be a part of that? Right. Because like you said, at the end of the day, we're all seeking community. Absolutely. And the stronger the community, and I love how you speak about that, but like the same happens even if for some of us who have taken the route of college, and we get to college and we see the same thing, but it's in the form of fraternities and sororities. And that we see this and we're like, I want to be a part of that. Absolutely. Like I like what they, we may not understand all the intricacies of it, but what we see is that I never had that. I want that brotherhood. I want that thing that they have where they get together and they dance together and where they go out together and they eat together, and it's attractive. Right. And so, go ahead. Yeah. And so I wanted to know more, and I found one brother I befriended and just started asking him, and then he started teaching me Islam. And then I went, and there was this entire, they called it the underground then, but there was this group of brothers that was just studying Islam, and we were getting papers and different manuals from the States, because here we are in Okinawa. Mm-hmm. And a few months in, I'm all the way in. I'm submerged. Right. And I'm studying Islam, and now I'm, doing Islamic prayers, and I'm learning all I can, and so consequently I'm shipped to California, Camp Pendleton, which is between San Diego and Los Angeles. And there's an actual mosque there that I can attend. So I started attending that mosque. And then, I'm a part of the Muslim community at that point. So at about 19 years old, up until I would say maybe my early 30s, it was Islam for me.
And would you say, I'm curious, would you say that even being in that community, because I understand how important community is, and a lot of times we like to kind of like bash certain communities and say, well, why choose that? But I've learned that community doesn't always, it's not that we always choose community, but community chooses us sometimes based on the attractiveness of it and what we're missing. Right. And sometimes we can look back and say, okay, well, due to this or due to the lack of brotherhood that I had, or even that bond that I had with my father, I'm now seeking that bond in the company of other brothers that will provide me or give me that, I guess maybe like it'll patch what I never got.
Yeah. You know what? That's exactly what it did for me. And I've seen it do so many for these young brothers coming out of jail. Because, I remember I was in a class once in an Islamic class, and they're teaching hygiene, and they're teaching black men how to shave. There's a certain way we have to shave.
Right.
Mess our skin up.
Right.
No one ever taught me that. My father had passed. I'm sure he would have. No one.
There it is.
So now I have these men teaching me how to shave, teaching me how to brush my teeth, teaching me how to do certain things. I can't forget about Deacon Oxidine in the church I grew up in. He taught me how to tie a tie. But these are the things as young men that we're looking for. Right. Sometimes we don't even know how to ask for them. We don't even know that we need them. But that's where we need people to step in. That's what brotherhood is about.
Right.
Because this is how we develop. And I didn't get that from any church, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when I'm in the Marine Corps. All the things that I tried, I wasn't getting that there.
Right.
In other words, I was going hard to be a part of them, but they weren't trying to be a part of me. Right?
Wow.
So now when I find Islam, I find just that. I find a true brotherhood. I find brothers that want to make sure I ate. Do you have money? Is there anything you need? Is somebody bothering you? Have you studied? People that hold me accountable. That's real brotherhood.
Right.
And even as I'm in the nation, we have a house that all of the single men are staying in this house. And we're waking up and praying together, and we're keeping each other accountable, and we're going out in the street to spread the message together. That's brotherhood.
Right.
So for me to be 19 years old in San Diego, California, and abstinent, you hear what I'm saying?
Wow.
A Marine.
Right.
Because of the accountability, because of the brotherhood. And there's some things that I did then in terms of my studies that I'm praying I could get back to now because of the diligence,
right?
Because of the time, the devotion that I placed into studying God's word. So, people can bash all they want to, but I know what that part of my journey, I know exactly what that did for me.
Right. And
it really gave me a level of discipline I know that has been so helpful to me now, even to get into God's word and be able to teach as God has allowed me to be able to teach. It's because of that initial discipline.
Right.
From just studying even then. And I tell people all the time, because as a Muslim, I used to study to prove Christianity wrong. But in studying to prove Christianity wrong, it made my faith stronger, and now I can teach Christianity even in a different way, in a more compelling way.
Right. Yeah. Because you've been on the other side. Absolutely. You knew what you would say to another Christian that was trying to disprove what you believe.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That I've never thought about it that way, yeah. But that is so then in saying that, then why is it that piece is missing in the communities of brothers in the Christian church? Like, why does it feel like without certain people being intentional about creating that brotherhood and those as I like to call band of brothers, which I have one, where we hold each other accountable, but it wasn't something that you saw and you were like, I want to join this. And I know that's probably a lot to unpack for one podcast episode, but I feel like that is something that a past hurt or past piece that a lot of us as men are missing, we're still seeking, and we're looking for it in different areas and communities where it fulfills a piece that was never fulfilled in our lives, where we wanted somebody to be there. We wanted somebody to show up and support. We wanted somebody to check on us. And we wanted that not necessarily in a female, but we wanted that in a man. Right. And it is as much as men try to say, well, I don't need anybody. A lot of times there are so many parts of us that a woman can soothe, but there's certain parts of us that only brotherhood can fulfill. Right. And I've learned how important that is. That's the whole, notice that this isn't just God's glory and real stories. Yeah. This is God's glory and men's real stories. Amen. Because I realize that community, even if it's through a camera, it's needed. Yeah. Brothers need to feel heard and seen. They need to sit down and listen to these conversations and even say, hey, look, because of that conversation, man, I may not ever be on the podcast, but I'd love to just connect with you through social media, because I realize how just this community is starting to grow. Yeah. And we need that community. We need that accountability. We need to talk about these things that we're struggling with, because what it does is it showcases a level of, we're not perfect either. Like we're going through the same thing you're going through as we strive to be better. Absolutely. As we hold each other accountable. I hold a lot of people accountable that I've spoken to on the net, on the internet that I've met. Right. Never met them a day in my life, right. But we hold each other accountable. Right. Like, hey, bro, you got this. You're the righteousness of Christ. You got this. And I appreciate when they reach back out and they keep me updated on things. Right. So not to go on my own story. So so go ahead. I want you to tell me how did it play out? Because I can understand how important that brotherhood was for you at that time. How did that play out to where you end up, back in a space that you grew up in, right, where it was more rule based? Yeah. And I don't know if it kind of, even though it was a brotherhood, I don't know if it felt the same way. Like we still have rules here.
You mean coming back to the church?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I didn't come back to the rules. I never went back to the rules.
Okay.
I came back to the relationship.
That's good.
And that's the difference. Now, again, you talk about some of the things that we may see in what we call Christianity today in terms of there not being that accountability or that brotherhood. I think we've made great strides in that. Mm-hmm. When I was coming up, it may not have been so prevalent. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we've seen instances where we have people, particularly in the church, that who've rose in leadership. They've risen in leadership, and they may have fallen. And when you really look at the core of their issue, it's really because they didn't have accountability in place. And I think as men, we do a better job of that now, in terms of holding each other accountable, especially if we want to be held accountable. Right. There it is. Yeah. Here's the thing, and I shared this with you in some earlier talks we had. I'm struggling with something. I'm suffering from something. I have a problem, and no one knows about my problem. And guess what? I really want help. I really want to be able to stop doing this thing. But I'm torn, because now if I share this thing with you, will you really help me? Or will you take advantage of me based on that vulnerability and use it against me? Right. And that's what so many of us have dealt with. Why? Because this is what's happened. How many times have we been in relationships and we're vulnerable in these relationships and we share some of our most intimate details in this relationship in terms of what we're afraid of, what frightens us, what we're struggling with, and only to have that thing come back up in an argument, and now the thing that you shared in love is being used against you in hatred. That's happened to me so many times. So what do men do? Shut up.
Right.
I won't say anything. I'll deal with it.
Yeah, and we slowly, what we felt was safe at one time, slowly becomes a mirage. We don't believe in safe spaces. We don't believe in safety in our vulnerability. So we shell up. We suck it up. We stuff it down. We do everything to avoid what we want to talk about. And it's not that so I recently realized it's not that we don't want to talk about it. It's like you said, we don't trust anybody with it.
No, not only do we not want to talk, I mean, we want to cry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because that's the only way we can process it a lot of times.
We want to let it out. We want to scream. We want to hit something. You know? But again, when I show that level of vulnerability, am I going to see this again in a different form now coming against me?
Yeah.
You know, because this is my release. And this release is supposed to be cleansing. It's supposed to be restorative. I'm going on to a new way of life. But I want to see this again because you're going to use it against me.
Right.
And I believe this is why so many men are just, they just, as you say, shell up. They clam up because, no, I'm not going to give you that ammunition. Not today. You know?
Yeah.
And I know I've been in those situations.
Yeah. And you know, I as well, and that is something I am currently, even in the process of trying to work through, because I recognize that sometimes it's not so much that it's definitely that we lose track of even believing that there's safety in it, but we've also never demonstrated it either.
Right.
And a lot of times, in order to allow a person to know what the safety of me opening up and offering this to you without worrying about it coming back on me, it requires us to demonstrate that to that person. And that I know you were vulnerable about that. And what you shared with me, it'll never come back as a joke. It'll never come back when as a you know, look at you, man. Like no, there's a safety, there's a level of like, even when I know I mess up, I can look at you and know that what I share with you, even in knowing that this is a problem I have, you're going to continue to encourage me and hold me accountable and not say, man, you know, hey, you know, it is what it is, right? This is what we like. No, bro, like that's not who you are. So let me encourage you past that. And whether that's a wife or whether that's a brother, it's something that's important to sometimes, if you want it from others, you have to give it to others to help them understand what it looks like. You have to let them know that I want to offer a safe space to you in hopes that you can understand that I'm looking for the same safe space from you. You
know, it's amazing that you say that, because 10 years into my marriage, there were things about me my wife still didn't know. I mean, and guess what? These are things that were affecting our marriage. And she didn't know. Why? Because I love her. She's my best friend. But I couldn't trust her with this part of me. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel safe. Right? Now, she knows everything about me. She probably knows more about me than I know about myself.
Right.
But there had to be a point in our marriage. There had to be a point in our relationship, in our oneness, that I had to be comfortable in trusting her with, I thought, were the most vulnerable things in my life. And it startled her. She was surprised because she some things she had an inkling, but she was more surprised that I'm talking about it.
Right.
And not only am I talking about it, I initiated the conversation. Not only did I initiate the conversation, I'm asking her to help me find solutions to these problems.
Right.
Completely vulnerable, completely surrendered. Right. These are things that I've openly gone to God about, but I've never shared them with the person that's sharing life with me.
Right.
And this all stems from the same thing we talked about, how we have grown up in life and things that we've done, and how things have kept us back, and things that we just didn't feel comfortable sharing, because at one time we were comfortable sharing something and we shared it with someone, and they came back and made a joke about it. They came back and they used it against us. So you're right. We need these things, and I applaud churches now. I applaud men's groups. I applaud things like what you're doing here, because these are tackling the issue, and there are more platforms now where men can feel safe about sharing these things and finding help. Here's the greatest thing in all of that. Now, with these circles, when you have these issues, not only are they hearing your issues and saying, oh, I see what you're dealing with, many of the people in these groups have dealt with it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've been there. So now there's empathy.
Right.
Not only is there empathy, well, let me tell you how God helped me with it.
Right.
So now there's some direction.
Right.
So I think that's one of the greatest things. And that's the power in having that type of brotherhood, or that safe space that you can be able to deal with a lot of these issues that we deal with.
Right. No, and that's you hit it on the head, because it is important. It's more important than we have ever recognized, but a lot of times we don't realize the importance of it until it explodes on us. It explodes within us. It starts out as I like to say, what happens is we try to drown out that inner child who's still having tantrums because of a lot of pieces of it that you've abandoned, because you won't talk about it, because you suppress your feelings, and now it's having full scale tantrums in moments where we might decide, okay, well, I'm just gonna go to get a couple drinks, and then we start to act in a manner that's like, this is not me. But this is all in me, though. Like, I feel that way. I just didn't want it to come out this way, but it's gotta come out. And the best way for it to come out is in the safety of community. Which is why, like you said, you were so drawn to community, because we recognize that community gives us that space to be ourselves in the right community. There are some communities that tell you, okay, well, you can only do this. You can only act this way. No, we move this way. No, we don't have feelings. Okay, well, then I'm stuck to move according to the rules of this community. But when you have the safety and the grace to be yourself, your authentic self, like who are you? Then now you can answer that with the response of, okay, who I really am? I'm just a soft guy who likes to listen to soft music and cry. Is that okay? Yes, that's okay.
And can you imagine being in a forum as a man where it's okay to cry? Where you're not being judged? When actually you're being consoled.
Right.
When you cry, when you deal with issues that you don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to your wife about. As a matter of fact, she doesn't understand.
Right.
She's not a man.
Right.
And and it's great that we have platforms like that for men now. But as we grow in spirituality, and as we grow in things that God is calling us to do, I think about pastors now. I think pastors are some of the most misunderstood people in the world. And guess what? The fact that you become a pastor doesn't mean that problems cease.
Right.
No, there should be a platform, pastors with problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you might need to start that podcast.
because they deal with so many other things. And I know, even coming, as being new to being a pastor, and just kind of speaking with other pastors, and it's almost like, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but for some it's almost like it's this facade of what you need to be, of what you... No, man, this is where I am. I'm still struggling with some stuff. That hadn't stopped. But it's almost like you need to be the picture of this, or you need to be this, and no, I need to be as transparent as I've always been. I don't need to put on a facade.
Right.
And I need other people who understand what I'm going through.
Right.
And can possibly give me some direction to help with some of these things. Because guess what? Everyone you see in the pulpit, they don't have it together. Right. There's some people struggling with some things, and because they feel like they can't share, they're battling this thing all by themselves.
Well, see, that goes back to, I feel like, those people that you were talking about earlier, about the rules, the ones who followed the rules to a T, that step in to try to be the accountability for those people. Right. And they pushed them into a space of like, okay, it's easier to fake the funk right. and to look like you guys want me to be than actually show up how I actually am. Yeah. And because there's not enough people that almost like blanket right. you from having to even experience those people and their comments and their remarks, to blanket you and who you are and who God called you to be, regardless of the mistakes you make, we do feel like I'll never make everybody happy. So what do you guys want me to be? You want me to be perfect? All right, I'm going to be as close to perfect, because clearly you want a perfect leader. You don't want an imperfect leader who is just like you, who can speak to what you're going through my own imperfections. So you're right. It is a hard balance. It is a hard understanding of how you can, but I think it all ties back into community, like you said. And even a pastor needs his own community, the community that says, nah, you don't want to read the newspaper today. Nope, actually, you don't want to look in the comments of your likes. You know what? Don't even worry about that, because I know who you are. You know who you are, but I don't want you to lose track of who you are based on what others are saying. And that's once again, like I said, it's a hard battle, because we're in a society where it's like, well, what are people saying about me? Who am I? I think we were talking about that earlier.
Absolutely.
Who am I? You know?
And you're dealing with that. And that's one thing, especially as men, that we have to understand. You know, I'm big on emotional intelligence and just trying to learn the competencies of emotional intelligence. And one of the quadrants for emotional intelligence is self-awareness. So it's a self-assessment, it's self-reflection. But one of the core competencies of self-awareness is to realize how your behavior affects other behaviors.
There it
and,
is.
You know, I was just telling you, I remember times I'd come home and my family would scatter, because I didn't realize that when I came in, my behavior, my attitude set the tone for the house. So if I come in and I'm not pleasant, I'm not staying around that.
Right.
Especially if they had a great day.
Right.
And sometimes my wife would have a wonderful day and wouldn't even get to share it with me because I came in miserable. And so that's why it's so important to learn how our attitudes, how our behaviors, how our mood sets the tone, not only in the house, but in some other places, even on the job.
Right, work,
and
everywhere.
I think that's why self-awareness is so important.
Yeah.
Which goes back to the brotherhood, because there are things that we have struggled with, there are things that we've dealt with, and we just don't know how to communicate it. I'll be honest with you. I know that God's timing is everything. I know that God sets time, and I know that He has journeys for us all. And I feel like I ran from the church. I ran from becoming a pastor. And I didn't run because I didn't think I was capable, you know. I ran because I thought that my past disqualified me. And that has become my life story. Why? Because I feel like for so many men, they're stuck. They're bound, not because of any limits placed on them by others, but because of the limits they placed on themselves, because they just think that thing they did was so hideous that it disqualifies them from moving ahead.
Right.
That I struggled with that for years.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that I've struggled with, it was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me. Yeah. No. Wow. Look. I love how sometimes I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I become a listener and I'm like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. And it's like, that turns into the disqualification turns into I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, it constantly, it ruminates. It takes up room in your head to where it pushes out all the good thoughts, and it constantly wakes you up to like, you'll never be enough.
But guess what? Not only does it turn this into I'm not enough. It's amazing you said that. I did a sermon called You're More Than Enough, talking about the same thing. But that I'm not enough eventually turns into I'm not doing it. That I'm not enough turns into no. And this is a no to God. When you look at Moses, I think Moses is the perfect. I share the story so much. I think it's the perfect story to fit what I've dealt with and what so many men, I believe, deal with. Why? Because Moses, by God's grace, was spared from genocide. And not only spared from genocide, but he was put in a place where he could flourish. So now he's in this palace. He's royalty. going to the finest schools, learning the art of war, learning different languages, learning politics, learning science. And the Bible doesn't mention any mistakes. I'm sure as a young child he made mistakes along the way, but nothing that would ever keep him bound. So essentially, Moses growing up in the palace of Pharaoh had a perfect life. He was the golden boy.
Right.
He was an heir. You know, he had everything at his fingertips.
Right.
So he wasn't bound by mistakes. And then he makes one mistake. In his mind, he makes one mistake, and that mistake is so grave, he runs out into the wilderness where he'd be for 40 years. And that's where many of us are. We make mistakes, and nobody is qualifying or disqualifying our mistakes or quantifying. No one is labeling us. It's us.
Wow.
And these mistakes send us out somewhere that we're not even supposed to be, out in the wilderness, because of it being so egregious in our mind.
Right.
And it's not that God hasn't forgiven us. We haven't forgiven ourselves.
There it is.
So now you see Moses in this wilderness, and now God comes to him. And look at how God comes. God has to introduce him. Why? Because you don't have a relationship with me. So now I have to tell you that I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
You know, I'm the God of your fathers. This is why. So God gives Moses his resume. And he says, I'm calling you. There's a thing I have for you to do. And I'm equipping you. I've equipped you to do what I've called you to do. And Moses says, nah, I got some problems, man.
Yeah.
I got some problems. And God said, no. And God says, I'm gonna, you know, you tell them it's me that sent you. Yeah, but how about if they don't listen to me?
Right.
No, they'll listen to you. You do this.
Right.
And then he says, I stutter, though. I got a problem. I got a lot of problems, you know?
Right.
And God is, and then the Bible says that God was angered at some point.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because every time God is saying, no, you're qualified, he's saying, no, I'm not. I got this thing. And just before the Bible says God was angered, the last thing Moses said was, in terms of me being able to do this, I can't really speak well. And God said, your help is already on the way.
Right. Going up the mountain now.
I've sent Aaron. He's already here. So in other words, before God even went to Moses, he had already worked it out on his behalf. I sent your help before I even came to you. And then Moses says after that, get somebody else to do it. And then that's when God was, as old folks say, fit to be tired, you know. Right. And that's when he goes in. But look at all of Moses had a perfect life, but because of this one mistake, even when God comes to restore him, when God comes to give him his life's call, he doesn't accept it because of that one mistake. And I believe that's just how many of us are.
Yeah.
When in our mind we know that we should be doing more than we're doing. We know that we've been called to higher, but we're thinking about that one mistake.
Yeah.
And God is telling Moses, you're more than enough. Not only are you more than enough, I've sent help. And look at the kind of help he sent. He said, when Aaron, the one that I'm sending, when he hears your voice, it's going to be as though he's hearing my voice. He's going to see the God in you. In other words, who I'm sending to you, you don't have to look behind your back. You can be vulnerable. You don't have to worry about them using those vulnerabilities to take advantage of you.
Right. Ooh, that's good.
That's what God is saying to Moses. And I say that to men. When you get on that path that God has you on and he sends you help, because God will send you your tribe, he's going to send some folk you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
You can be vulnerable and you're in a safe place. And you can do what God called you.
Hey, man, you gave a whole word. Okay, wait a minute, man. Like, man, do we have enough time to unpack? So because you're right. There are so many men that are trying to find their Aaron instead of waiting for God to send them their Aaron. And they're looking at so many different places and they're finding the wrong person sometimes, the people who backstab them, the people who hurt them, who steal from them, instead of saying, God, who do you want me to do this journey with? Right. And oh man, that's good. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, man, you hit me with a lot there. Okay, wow. I don't even know where to go back to with that. Because that resonated with me, and that I say that a lot, and that we sometimes look at the community we built around us. Oh, it's our day ones. It's I've been with them. We grew up on the same streets and all, and we're trying to make those people the people that we want to do life with. I want to go to the top, and I'm trying to bring all of y'all with me, or even just one of y'all, 5 of y'all, but that's based on our own plans, our own desires, where we're wanting to go. But when you're seeking after God's plan, you have to know that he's going to bring the right people around you. Absolutely. He already knows who is going to be that person you can be vulnerable to.
Yeah. There's a passage in the Bible, and I think I get Bethesda and Bethsaida mixed up, so theologians don't beat me up, but I think it's Bethsaida, where there this group of men that bring this blind man to Jesus. Now, this blind man has no vision, and obviously he has to be led everywhere he goes, right? And I think it was Chorazon and Bethsaida, or that Jesus cursed before, but here they are in this place, and it's actually a cursed place because Jesus cursed it, but he's there, and these men have led this blind man to Jesus, and then they come and they want, Jesus, we want you to touch him. So they're coming to tell Jesus how they want this man to be healed. But here they are, they're bringing this blind man to Jesus. And the first thing Jesus does is he grabs that blind man by the hand and he leads him out of the city. So you see here where the same people that brought him, they brought you to Jesus only so Jesus could get you away from them. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the first thing he did. He led that man away from the same people that brought him to Jesus. And that's why it's so important to let Jesus lead you, because he'll put you in the company you need to be in.
Right.
There's some people that have been introduced to the church by certain people they needed to get away from.
Oh, yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and I just believe that, and that's just something I've been on lately. I tell my wife all the time, because we're looking for people to help with the church and looking for people to help with different projects. And I talk to so many other pastors that are just dealing with the challenges of growing a church in a post-pandemic society. And my message is the same to all of them, because it's what I'm going through, and it's that God will send you your tribe. God will send you your help. And we have to rely on God for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's so true. Yeah. That's good. Man, listen, we got a word, Jay. Woo, we got a word. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if we even unpacked this a little bit, and I think we got a little bit. So there was a time where you were talking about how your brotherhood in the Islam community, how that eventually pushed you back into the church, and I don't want to I guess in the Muslim community. Don't kill me if I'm saying this incorrectly, because I don't know well enough. But it's a mosque and it's not a church. So when saying that they pushed you back into church, that's fair to say, and that you. Well,
you know what? And I won't even say it's a push. I'll be honest with you, Brother Robert. I never left the church.
Oh,
I never left the church. That's why the Bible says, "Train up a child in the way they should go, and they won't depart from it." I never left the church. It was always a part of me. And I can't even quantify it now. For some reason, I felt as though I was hurt or misled by the church. And now I'm introduced to this thing, and I see real brotherhood. But the church was still a part of me. Why? My mom's still here. My family. I mean, I grew up in the church. We're still connected. And yeah, I'm doing this thing, and I'm in Islam. But I mean, I still went to church.
Right.
I still had relations with my family, and more than anything, it was still in my heart, because even then, while I was in the nation, the nation was on the path of reestablishing or establishing relationships with the church, so that fell right in line with what I was doing.
Right.
I mean, if you've ever heard Minister Farrakhan preach in the 90s, I think he preached more in the churches than he did anywhere else.
No, true. Yeah.
So it was just about, I believe then, the two communities kind of understanding each other, because from their premise, from their standpoint, it was hey, you know what? There's a common denominator between us.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than look at these religious differences, let's look at what we're dealing with as a people in this society.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at some of the things that are crippling our communities, where you have church and mosque,
Right.
but you also have church, mosques, and crack houses and liquor stores.
Yep. Yep.
And it's affecting all of us.
Yep.
So why are we going to continue to be at odds?
Right.
When we can work together.
Right.
And it doesn't mean I have to come and stand under your banner.
Right. I may not agree with with how you do things,
right.
but I still love you, and I know our love can reach everybody here in this community. Right. No, that's good. I like that. I like that.
So I wouldn't say that I was pushed back to the church, but when I came back to South Carolina, and when I actually moved to Charlotte, I just felt the call more strongly, and I think I ran more, but I wanted to study more. I wanted to go to church more. I wanted to get into seminary, and I just felt it. I can't explain it. I just felt it, and it went until 2007 that I went to this church on West Boulevard and went and heard the pastor, and I think it was that next Sunday I went and I said, you know what? First church I ever joined in my life. I joined in 2007. I grew up in the church but never became a member.
Right.
So I joined this church in 2007, and I've been serving ever since.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And I love how you said I've been serving ever since. Because it's one thing just to be a member and go and get fed. Right. But serving is a level that a lot of us don't ever make it to, because it's great to go and be fed, and being fed is great, and seeking after a relationship is great, but God calls us to serve. He calls us to not just serve ourselves but serve others. Absolutely. The same way He did it. And that's you can do that in so many different capacities. Some people say, well, I give my tithes and offering, and that's great. That's great. But not only your efforts, not only the efforts that a lot of churches are using your tithe and offering to reach other people, but I love how sometimes different churches have like these weeks where they go out and they serve the community in different capacities, and it becomes a thing of like, okay, well, I'll wait till that week comes around every year. But it's like, but the thing is that once that week's over with, those communities, those organizations are still looking for people to come back and help serve the community. Absolutely. Which is why I try to make it a part of it's a lifestyle to want to serve others, because it's I tell people, you're looking for fulfillment, it's in serving. You're looking for a relationship, it's in serving. Right. There are so many things that people are looking for that one way or another God can connect what you're looking for in serving. I talk to a brother now who I'm really good friends with, and he's longing for a relationship. He wants a relationship with somebody who's seeking after God the same way he is. And I'm like, I don't want to sound cliche, but your wife could be at the next serving opportunity that you are kind of like, I don't know, it's hot out there. And
you're right.
And it is. Right. It's going to be maybe a little uncomfortable. Yeah. But I mean,
you're right. That wife may be there, and I'm going to get in trouble.
Okay, go ahead. Let's do it. Let's do it. That happens a lot here.
I tell you, man, church. It's not a place to come and get a title. We have all of these different titles. You're administrator, you're elder, you're pastor, you're self-appointed bishop, apostle, all these grandiose titles, because you want people to serve you. You want people on your team. You want to be in charge. And many of us we don't even have authority in our own homes. Somebody's telling us what to do on our jobs. We can't get anybody to listen to us at home. So now this team has been entrusted to us at the church, and we turn this thing into a kingdom. And we want to make people peons to follow us. And I got you focusing on a relationship, but it's not the one that you should be focusing on.
Right.
I'm not telling you anything I've read. I'm telling you what I've lived. I've seen it.
Right.
And I've seen egos grow. I've seen people morph into what they would deem as a god themselves because of the way they had people serving them.
Yeah.
I've seen people that wouldn't even fix their own cup of water.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
They were waiting for a cupbearer.
If you're thirsty, man, I'll drink out of a water hose.
Yeah.
Just show me where it is.
Right.
But I'm telling you, and this is the part, this is the unhealthy, the ugly, the grotesque part of church that people are so sick of, they'll throw the entire thing away. So you're absolutely right. If you want to do something to be effective in church today, you'll serve. One of the greatest lessons Jesus ever taught the disciples. Think about this. One of the first sermons that I launched Sunday, the sermon I gave was, "Will you wash my feet?" Here they are traveling, all of their feet dirty, and they get in. And no one even thinks to wash Jesus' feet. And they miss so many opportunities. And I tell people, here are the opportunities they missed. They didn't wash each other's feet. They felt like they may have missed something, or they may have been belittling themselves in the eyes of all of these who are just trying to be so close to Jesus. So I'm not even going to run the risk of losing my status by washing somebody else's feet. And if Jesus is their master, he's their rabbi, they didn't even consider washing his feet. But guess what? They didn't even wash their own feet. They came and sat at a dirty table, or sat at a table, or how they sat in the first century, or leaned. But they were at this table with dirty feet and didn't even wash their own feet. Why? Because now they're in a position where I don't serve, I'm to be served. And no one was willing to wrap the towel around their waist and be the servant to them all. Jesus stood up, and he wrapped the towel around their waist, and he washed everyone's feet. And then he told them, this is what you're going to have to do. If you're following me, you're going to have to be willing to wash each other's feet. You're going to have to be willing to love. Stop asking about who's going to be the greatest among you. The greatest among you will serve. So for us, in 2023, if you want to be the greatest in your church, the greatest in your community, the greatest on your job, the greatest in your home, you'll serve. You'll serve.
That's good. That's good. Normally I ask somebody, I ask, my guests to leave people with a parting message, and you just hit it. Yeah, no, you just hit it. You took it. You right ahead of me.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming and sharing, man, just sharing so much. You just dropped so much on me. I'm gonna have a message. I'm gonna have to sit here and unpack this later. This is really good. I appreciate you sharing with my community, and just opening up and being vulnerable, and just us unpacking a lot of what we go through, what we experience in life, the journeys we take, and more importantly, how sometimes we feel like we're disqualified to even do anything better than what we've already done. Yeah, God, if you saw my resume, or you wouldn't hire me. I mean, I can't believe some of these other people even come around me. But no, this is a great message, and I know it resonated with me. And like I said, I became a listener as I was sitting over here. But no, I appreciate you joining. Before you leave, though, I would love for you to share with my community a little bit about how they can get in touch with you, how they can find you and Servants Church, and more importantly, what you're doing right now in the community.
Yeah, well, I would love to say this before I get into any of that.
Okay.
I really want to stress to your audience, to those that are watching, to those that are listening, to those that are, see it wherever they see it, especially to those men that are listening. I really want to, because I believe this is why I'm here today. I want to stress being disqualified, what that means. And guess what? All of these mistakes that you've made, no matter how egregious, it could have been large, it could have been small, it could have been 20 years ago, it could have been yesterday, your mistakes do not qualify you from doing what God has called you to do. Don't be stuck by your mistakes.
Right. Or disqualify you.
Don't think that it's too late. Don't think that you have to go another direction, or you have to settle.
Right.
Because of your past, because of a mistake you made. I stress that because I found myself stuck, brother, for years. Because of mistakes I made. And guess what? I own them. They're mine. I made them.
Right.
But that does not disqualify me.
Right.
Why? Because God is so good that those same mistakes you made, He'll use them and get the glory out of them.
Yes, he will.
You hear what I'm saying?
Yes, he will.
Your mistakes will become a badge of honor, not because they were so bad, but because you were delivered from them, and still look at what you were able to do because of God's grace and mercy.
Right.
Your mistakes highlight God's grace.
Right.
They highlight his mercy.
And
so that's what I want to leave with your audience. Don't be stuck. Don't let it keep you bound.
Yeah.
Repent.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself, and do what God called you to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
That's good. And that's man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you can reach us. It's and I'm not good at any of this.
Okay, it's cool.
But if you go on Facebook, we're Servant Church NC. Instagram, we're Servant Church NC, and we're also and we're Servant Church Charlotte on YouTube.
Okay.
But Facebook and our website is servantnc.church. But if you really want to see what we're doing to be connected to us, it would be Facebook.
Right. And as I said here, I was looking at your shirt, and I was like, "Turn to your neighbor." I love that, because that connects to a lot of people. Where they're like, you hear that every Sunday. Go ahead and turn to your neighbor. I love that. Yes. I love that shirt. I love that shirt.
And this is if you know, you know. So we're doing a movement. It's called Speak Life. Me and a few other partners. And we're doing something I believe will revolutionize how the Bible is taught, not in a crazy way, but it's simply modernizing the stories, the events in the Bible, so that there can be more clarity, or just give us an understanding. So these will be done through short stories that will be on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. And again, we'll just modernize things that have literally happened in the Bible to just stories that we can that actually resonate with us today.
Connect to. Yeah.
So as a part of this community, because it's inspirational, it's meant to compel us to dive deeper into the Bible, more than anything to apply what we learn to our lives. And I think you'll see that in what we do as we start to push these videos out. But just to be able to associate with the brand, to associate with that movement, we came up with the line, "If you know, you know," and just we have different shirts. This says "Turn to your neighbor," but we have some that says, "Let the church say Amen." There's another one that says "Won't he?" with a question mark, because we always say, "Won't he do it?
Won't he do it?
Won't he really?
Won't he do it?"
Right. So we have a line of shirts that we just ask people, hey, you know what? Support the movement, be a part of the movement, a part of the brand, and that merch can be found on speaklifemerch.com, and life is spelled with a Y, so it's speaklyfe.com or merch.com.
Nice.
But hey, it's just it's another way that we can actually be involved in a global community, and we can spread the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And sometimes it happens through a T-shirt. Somebody just coming up to you and being like, "Yo, I like your shirt," or like, "What's that all about?" And that literally gives a person an opportunity to be able to spread the word, be able to continue to find those who are lost and looking for something, even if it's through a T-shirt. So no, that's good. I like that. Right. I like that. That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, I thank you for your time today. It was awesome. It was a great time. It was a great conversation. I love these conversations where I can sit back and just kind of like, whoa, that's good.
Well, I have to say, you've been an excellent host.
Oh, thank you.
I'm honored to be here. Honestly, didn't know what to expect, but just your level of professionalism, your humility, I'm blown away, man. And I see God in your life. So thank you. I
appreciate that. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. I thank you for that. Well, cool. Well, with that said, guys, I appreciate you guys coming. I appreciate you guys sitting with us today. I'm glad I can continue to bring these great conversations and bring this, continue to grow this community into what I know God has called me to grow it into. Even if it doesn't always look the way I think it should look, it doesn't matter what I think. I know that I continue to ask him, as I tell him, he's the producer of this show, and it's his job to work through me to allow me to understand where he's taking it, and even who to find to come on. And so with that said, I appreciate you all listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. All right, you guys be well.
We appreciate you listening today and hope that if you enjoyed this episode, you'll like and subscribe and also listen to past episodes. We hope to bring you great future content as well. Please comment your thoughts on this episode as well as leave any prayer requests below so that this community can pray alongside you. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at God's Glory and Israel Stories.
Brothers, we understand how the thoughts of even facing your own past and current story and the pain and hurt that come along with this is no easy task. But you're not alone, as you hear in these episodes. Nor has God forgotten you or left your side, as He's in it with you, fighting alongside you through the storms of life. He loves and has already forgiven you, no matter what you have done, and He wants a relationship with you. Your healing, freedom, and growth are important to God and to us as well. Maybe you're considering giving up or need someone to talk to. Here are a few resources that exist that we hope can shine a light into that dark place you're in. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number is 1-800-273-8255. If you need support but are not in crisis, consider reaching out to a warm line with individuals who would love to talk with you. Speaking to someone on these calls is typically free and confidential and run by people who understand what it's like to struggle in life. Find a local number by going to warmline.org.